I'm going to get some pushback for this. Matt Rhule
Ooh.
at Nebraska. I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this. He just led Nebraska to its first bowl game since 2016. He stole a 5-star quarterback. He is on right now an 8-year, $74 million deal with 90% of it guaranteed. It's a weird contract because he gets an average of $1 million raise every year with the way that it sets up. And maybe some of that is because there's some Carolina Panthers stuff that they wanted to be able to offset with that.
Mm-hmm.
But he started at $5.5 million, and the deal ends at $12.5 million annually. That's wild to have that type of a range in one contract, not just, I got a raise and I got bumped up to that, a la Dan Lanning, what he's going to end up being paid this upcoming season. So by 2027, he's going to be in the $10 million club. In 2024, there are only 7 coaches in that $10 million club. All of them, are better than 2-22 lifetime against AP top 25 teams. That's what Matt Rhule is. 2-22 lifetime.
What did you just Matt Rhule is...
Nobody talks about this. Nobody talks about this because he inherited situations that Temple, not great. Baylor, obviously, disastrous.
Right.
This guy is 2-22 lifetime against AP top 25 competition. In the 21st century, and I looked this up. Shout out to our company, Sport Radar. They've made looking up stats like this a lot easier for me. In the 21st century, there are 12 FBS coaches who faced at least 20 AP top 25 teams and had 2 wins or less. Matt Rhule's one of them. Okay? And I fully get the mess at Baylor. I am not discounting the post-Art Briles mess in Waco. It was bad. He did a great job. He turned that program around. Year 3, boom, he's off to the NFL after that, okay? It's why he was hired at Nebraska. He is hired for a rebuild. He is hired to get them back off the mat after Scott Frost dragged them through the mud, put them on the mat, and said, stay there until I say get up. And boy, don't you know he wasn't going to be the one to get him up.
It was Nebraska, like toxic X vibes. It was like, next year, dude, we're going to limit the turnovers, the one-possession games. I promise. Just hang out.
If I had a nickel for every time Scott Frost said, we're going to get back to ground and pound football.
Yep.
Say that every year. And Nebraska fans are like, oh, finally.
Love
Can't
it.
wait. Buddy,
being gaslit is what they were doing. Yep.
Nebraska fans got sick of Bo Pelini because he was 9-16 against AP top 25 competition. Different era of Nebraska football. Okay. And I lived it there. Yep. I did. I was there for it. Like I remember the angst, and there were definitely supporters of Pelini. How much of that was the faux Pelini stuff? A little bit, definitely a little bit. But Nebraska paid a coach that was sitting on a lottery ticket. That's what Matt Rhule had with his time from the Carolina Panthers, with a $40 million buyout from them that he got. And the Huskers are covering the first $34 million of what the Panthers owed him. So there's offset language in there. That's the good news if you're the Carolina Panthers. But this isn't about who benefiting an NFL team. Mm-hmm. If it's not working out near the end of year 4, which, look, that could be Dylan Raiola's pre-draft season, Nebraska will still have $46 million left on the deal, and he would be owed $41.4 million. He basically told Nebraska when he's being recruited by them, hey, I got all this buyout money coming in from the Panthers. I can go be on a country club, in Charlotte and living a good life and make this money. And that's essentially what he's getting from Nebraska. They essentially match that money. And then he basically built in an extension so that by year 5, he's making $10 million annually as one of the highest paid coaches in the sport. Again, he got into their first bowl game since 2016. That's not nothing. That is really significant to a fan base that cares, a smart fan base. But if you're telling yourself that this deal is absolutely going to work out perfectly, Nebraska's never going to have to think of that buyout, I would push back on that. I would be awfully worried about some of those figures with how backloaded this contract is.
This is a guy where, I remember this is like a long ongoing conversation we've had where I'm like, we're talking about Nebraska, and I'm like, look, if anyone can quote unquote save Nebraska or at least set them up for success, it's a guy kind of just like this, right? And that was kind of like what we landed on is who is the mythical guy? Is it Urban Meyer? Is it whoever? And it's kind of just this guy who already has the rep. And you got the flash in the pan, the lightning in the bottle. I mean, with Rhule, who just happens to be coming up at this right time. So to your point, it is kind of a fairy tale story at this point. So is Scott Frost, right? And so point being, I get the hesitancy, but I think we will truly know what Nebraska's ceiling is when Rhule gets out of school. And if Rhule can't figure it out, it's really time to panic if you're in Lincoln.
Matt Rhule is going to rebuild Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
But if your definition of rebuild is getting them to a Big Ten championship every year, I think you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Rebuilding is making sure that they're not the laughing stock, the team that's got the longest active bowl list streak in the Big Ten.
Yep.
That's what he was overpaid to do. And so for a lot of people, it's worth it. Hey, it's Nebraska. What else are you going to do with all that money if you have the support to be able to pay those contracts? Nebraska's actually got a lot of other really good athletic programs. Nebraska volleyball is a juggernaut that people don't talk about enough, at least when it comes to like the national sports landscape. But that's a different subject for a different time. That contract has potential to all of a sudden be, oh my God, are we never going to be better than 8-4? And this guy's getting paid how much? That's the thing that would alarm me the most, and think, was it really worth it to pay that type of money to be able to be rebuild in, the sense that Nebraska needed post Scott Frost era?